everybody, it's Clarissa here. We are back in the limelight yet again this week with another extraordinary entrepreneur, but more than that, she is a leader of women, and we love women leaders in the limelight. I do want to remind everybody that you can see the video over on YouTube. We have pretty much anywhere you get podcasts, you are going to be able to get this podcast. We have just added Stitcher and Spotify and Pandora as well. So along with Apple and Google and our friends over at Inspired News Radio, you can hear the podcast. Do not forget that you can come over also to clarissaburt.com, where In the Limelight Media lives, to see the latest iteration of the In the Limelight magazine. It is intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. So without much further ado, I'm going to bring on today's guest, and I love her. I just really met her. We just saw her for the first time pre-show, and we've had a couple of conversations beforehand by phone. And I have to tell you, one of the most amazingly kind, sweet, and present people in a difficult moment in my life. But let's bring her on so that I can thank her in public. There's Shelley Zalis, everybody. She is the founder and CEO of the Female Quotient. The Female Quotient doing amazing things for women worldwide. And I do want to also say, Shelley, congratulations on your Athena Award.
Thank you. That was a really nice one to receive, I have to say, because it really was about the work and the impact, and something that, when you're in the business of equality, it's not a one and done. It's not something you do a day in your life. It is something that is a continuous journey. Of
course. Yeah, just for those that may not know what the Athena Award is, unless you want to tell them, I've got a couple of stats here, and then we can go back. There are about 500, more than 500 communities around the world that are, they help women in leadership roles, help even more women, which is extraordinary. Again, globally. And then there are more than 38 years of honoring and empowering women, and about 7,200 awards, Shelley, that have been given since the Athena Award started. That is an extraordinary honor.
It makes you, want to keep doing more and more when you can feel the impact of change, especially the collective action for change. It's really empowering, and it's like building. You just know that you're in this world with purpose and passion. And I always say, with purpose and passion, you're unstoppable. And so that's where we're going.
Yeah, and you're known as an internationally renowned thought leader. You're working and have been working feverishly on equality in the workplace. Where are we with that today?
Well, we are definitely not where we need to be. And unfortunately, we're going backwards. With COVID, we are seeing a disproportionate impact on women that are primary caregivers, and on Black women in particular. And so when you look at the state of equality in general, the World Economic Forum published results just recently that says at the current rate of progress, it will take over 257 years to realize gender pay equity, and over 99.5 years to realize equity in the C-suite. So, we have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go. And you are bringing women together through events. And I know that they had been in person more now, because I'm following along with your newsletter. And I do suggest that everybody jumps on and gets that newsletter, because you get some great information. Let me come over here and want to make sure that we get the femalequotient.com on the ticker below, so that as we're speaking, people will know where to go to get more information. But you are also doing now, you've got podcasts going on. You've got virtual meetings going on. I was on one the other day. I had to jump off quickly, but what a great amount of fabulous information that we really need as women. We need to be knowing as a collective, and in the collective, there is just so much strength when we all do come together for the same cause. Tell me about some of the things that are happening over there at the Female Quotient, and how you're sort of forging forward with the message.
Well, thank you. The Female Quotient is all about advancing women across race, age, intersectionality, religion, ability, across the board, LGBTQ, so it really is about advancing women, advancing equality. And what that takes, conscious leadership. We always say equality is a choice. Unconscious bias is an excuse. If you use the word unconscious, you're conscious. And we know about all the bias barriers in the workplace today. they have historically been invisible barriers that we are now making quite visible. And,
Right.
you know, leadership is still predominantly a male issue, and caregiving is still predominantly a female issue.
Right.
So matters a lot. And
Right.
women are 50% of the population, actually 51% of the population. Gender equality is not a female issue. It's a social and economic issue.
Absolutely.
And so what we do is we bring conscious leaders together across Fortune 500. Men, women, it doesn't matter if you are a leader in a position of power to activate the changes that we all need to see and to rewrite the rules that make no sense and create the new ones, then you're included. So it's a very inclusive environment where we have uncomfortable conversations, because
Right.
that's where the change truly happens. But we're
Right.
comfortable because we're all together. And pre-COVID, we were hosting upwards of 70 lounges at big industry conferences across industry, from advertising, research, technology,
Right.
media, sports, music,
Right.
entertainment, world leaders. Since COVID, we've hosted over 300 conversations in the last 5 months, with over 1,200 speakers, with access to more than 500,000 engaged audiences, where they're not just listening, but they're hearing, they're watching, and they will be champions for change as well.
So the story goes that you had to go to the Consumers Electronics Show up in Vegas. I don't know when, some years ago maybe. And, you know, in many of the situations where I think a lot of us women, we do find ourselves more in the company of men when it comes to the workplace than the company of women, even though we are working on championing for women. I don't know how that happens sometimes, but it kind of does. It's unusual. But you're going through the show, you're in Vegas, and you wanted to bring in some girlfriends with you, or some other female energy to be with you in that context. Was it because you were feeling uncomfortable, or because you wanted to make a statement? Explain that to me.
Yeah, so I am well known in market research. I'm the pioneer of online research. So if you've ever taken a survey on the internet, sorry, not sorry, but I am the mother of that invention. So put me at a conference anywhere in the world, and I will have a group of people that I know. But I wanted to bring research into technology, because I built a technology-enabled research business, you know, online. And I heard that CES was the place to go. It was the big convention in Las Vegas, 150,000 plus people, less than 50% were women. And I thought to myself, well, I really want to go, but I don't want to be by myself. A, it would be boring, and B, no one's going to welcome me into their circles. And so what do you do when you're a little, you know, nervous? You call your girlfriends. So I called 4 girlfriends 24 hours before the show, and I said, listen, I want to go walk the floor, but will you go with me? And I said, if you know other women, invite them as well. And so 24 hours later, 50 women showed up, and we walked the floor. And 2 remarkable things happened. 1, every single guy's head turned. And that's when I coined the phrase, a woman alone is power, collectively we have impact. And the second was this confidence moment. I was surrounded by women just like me, with some of the same challenges: work-life balance, perfection, imposter syndrome, breaking into a category where they were
needing permission.
Yeah, permission, and a boys club. And so that moment, the boys club now became the girls lounge. And so the opposite of boy is girl, the opposite of club is lounge, the girls lounge was born. And a lot of women at the time were like, oh gosh, but we're not girls, we're women. I said, have you ever heard of a man object to being in the boys club? Never. Why are we creating our own double standards? And so, you know, a few years later, we're 50,000 women in the workplace strong in, you know, over 100 countries. And it's just this community of like-minded women sharing some of the same challenges that have historically hidden our greatest strengths. We say our differences are our greatest strength, and making the invisible visible, which is really what it's all about. We've since evolved the Girls on the Equality Lounge, because we want men and women, we want conscious leaders to join. So we have evolved considerably to now creating solutions for change, measurement for accountability, and helping companies become a quality fit across the board.
Absolutely. You know, I've got to say that I am particularly proud of our younger generation and the Me Too movement, if you will, because I remember back in my day, it was kind of like, well, that's kind of the way it is. You're just going to have to deal with it. And, you know, just try not to look at them, and try to walk quickly past them, and, you know, all the stuff that you would do to kind of maneuver your way around not being bothered and not being harassed, you know. And I mean, you may remember some of those very same things. That was what was taught to me. And for the movement to be able to stand up and say, we've had enough, it's enough, and for it to be really loud, really heard, and go on, it just continues now, if you will, into hopefully perpetuity. And that finally, we might get the message that it's just not okay to be treated like that. How are you finding our younger generations dealing with the equality situation now?
Well, we say it's not the next generation, it's the now generation. They are our future leaders, and creating that confidence and that consciousness. Equality is in their DNA. So they will not tolerate anything other than that. And they will only go to work for a company that has, equality intrinsically, as part of the culture and the operating system of a company. And so we're all about closing the gaps from parity policy and pipeline, parity of the wage gap. I mean, why are women doing the same work as men on average making 80 cents on the dollar and black women?
I can't believe we're still having that conversation, but we are.
Of course we are. And so we need to move from admiring the problems to creating the solutions for change. And why are we going to wait 257 years? I think we can do this within 5 years if we make the conscious decision to close the gap and open the new door of equal pay for equal work, and not just filling the pipeline with diversity, but creating the pathway to success, leadership, and not just keeping all the policies we have in place, but it's really looking at the policies that we have in the workplace, ensuring that we are, putting more money and reallocating into ones that will allow everyone to bring their best selves, their whole selves to the workplace and thrive at every life stage. That's how we create the attraction and retention.
Where is it in the conversation you find yourself still frustrated? And the question, I think, really is equality, is it a word that's being bantered about, or is corporate really standing up and taking notice?
Well, I think everyone is taking notice. It's about taking steps for change. I think the biggest problem is people think change is so hard and so scary, and it will take evolving culture. It's systemic. So I think frustration for me is, talking about it and signing pledges and petitions, which to me is just a surrogate for doing nothing.
Right.
It's really about putting your seal, on the changes and holding yourselves as companies accountable. We talk a lot about ROI, return on investment. We talk about ROE, return on equality. We have all the data. We know diversity is good for business. We know it's great for innovation. We know it's great for retention. We know it's great for leadership. We know it's great for all those things, and we see the data. So why have we not moved forward at this point?
Yeah.
And I think, when you look at the data and you look at the results of all the countries measured, I mean, the United States keeps going backwards. So different countries are going backwards and forwards.
So if you wanted to do, if you could do a shout out right now to some of the companies that are actually doing the thing, like they're like getting it, who would that be?
Well, I think that there's two aspects of doing your thing, and I call it inside out and outside in. The outside in is the marketing messages and the campaigns. I'm co-founder of #SeeHer that belongs to the ANA. And it is, if you could see her, you can be her. And working on, with marketers, with big media spend on the accurate and realistic portrayal of girls and women in media and entertainment. Right. And that's really representation. Media defines culture, culture defines change, change defines impact. That's how we can impact change with possibilities, with young girls today seeing themselves, in everything they do. And then inside out is really how do we reshape the inside of our organization? Because you got to walk the talk. You can't just put great messages out there to engage consumers to buy more. You also need to be a quality fit within your organization.
For sure.
So, Salesforce is doing an amazing job of, equality. NBC Universal with, the portrayal of women in Olympics, Procter & Gamble, Unilever. We are working with over 100 companies, Google, bringing more visibility to women in tech. We're doing a whole show on the women in the business of sports with WWE, with Steph McMahon, the chief brand officer.
All that, yeah, it's awesome.
Deloitte, PwC, all companies that are committed to helping their clients be better. And so being better is a choice, and also not looking at the whole journey. It's starting by starting. Start wherever you want to start, but hold yourself accountable for continuously being better and making progress.
Right. So past, let's say past salary equality, how are we moving forward as far as maternity and childcare? Are more companies opening up to childcare in-house?
Well, childcare is a really big initiative that will help advance women across life stage. And so I talk a lot about life stage. You know, Ariana Huffington always says, I don't know why we do exit interviews. Everyone's gone. Why don't we do entry level interviews? And we say, why don't we do life stage accommodation? Because if you're a mom and a primary caregiver, you will have different needs from your company if you want to have work and family, both very important in your life. We're going to need to make some accommodations and know that in a few years they'll have different needs, but it might not be, you know, the flexibility and fluidity they need at that moment. I think parental care is a whole new lexicon that I think we start adopting, and not just saying it's the, because then we see the motherhood penalty when we call it maternity leave. If it's parental leave, because when we say paternity leave and it's elective, only 32%, I think, of men actually take full paternity leave because they think it will show a sign of weakness. And so if we're calling it parental leave and that we expect all parents to take it, then we're leveling the playing field again. So it really is about the right language and also evolving a lot of the policies so that, you know, women don't feel like they're the exception, but they become the new norm.
How do you know, where is it that you measure the success that the female quotient is having along the journey? How is it you go, you know what, great, we really made that happen? Give me a couple of examples as to where it is that, you know, I asked you about your frustrations, where it is you're having some of your wins.
Well, I think that the power of collaboration is a very big win. We have over 100 Fortune 500 partners working together. So we're sharing the good, bad, and the ugly so that we don't go backwards. We've all been doing the same work in silos, which is really unfortunate. So really getting different industries to collaborate and share success stories of what works, but also what doesn't work, so that, you know, this is the one place we are uniting on equality. No matter what our competitive differences are and, you know, marketplace needs are, what we are uniting on is equality. So I'm very proud of how we're all working together now, which I think is, you know, really important, number one. And number two, we're doing a lot of conscious mindset immersions inside of companies, bringing leadership together, talking about the state of equality in the workplace, and very specifically, you know, assessing companies of where they are, where they want to go, and then the pathway for how to get there. And some of them are just really easy solutions, and then creating that measurement for accountability so that they can move the needle in the areas that they want to work on right now. And we never point a finger at who's doing something bad or who's doing something wrong. Everyone is in whatever place they're in, and that's their starting point. And so we never compare anyone to anyone else. Anyone that is being a conscious leader to create change, we applaud.
Absolutely, and I applaud you for all the fabulous work that you're doing. I ask this of every entrepreneur that comes on here, and certainly world leaders much like yourself. And apart from marriages and children, what would you say is your crowning moment, or was your crowning moment?
Wow. Well, you know, I had an amazing experience in Davos. We were invited to the World Economic Forum, and I was told, we want you to come, but you might not feel welcome.
Interesting.
And it was that moment where I had a choice to say, oh, forget it, I don't want to go to a place I might not feel welcome, or say what I said, which was, okay, I'll be there. And once again, I invited 4 of my power girlfriends. I said, we're going to the World Economic Forum, which was a dream for me. And we went, and now, you know, we're going on our 6th year. We are the destination for equality at the World Economic Forum. And that was a pretty monumental moment that You need to just shut that voice up in your head, believe in yourself, believe in the power of the pack, which is what we call our network of trust and safety and security, and make the next thing it, which is scary. You got to overcome that fear. I mean, even though, I had a lot of that fear, but you just push forward, and then you look back one day and say, wow, look how far we've come. And so I think it was just owning that voice and that strength collectively to go forward and not be afraid, because I would be in a status quo circular, motion if I didn't just push forward. So I think that was a pretty monumental moment for us.
I would say that was extraordinary. Well, listen, Shelley, I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know how busy you are, and taking some time out of your day to be with us has been an extraordinary experience for me, and I know for all of my listeners. I do want to thank everybody. I do want to remind you, thefemalequotient.com. Shelley Zalis, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to close out the show. Don't go away. You stay right there. All right, everybody, you know where we'll be next week. Get over to clarissaburt.com. You'll get all the information you need for next week's show. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks for watching this episode of In the Limelight TV, intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel and connecting with me on social. You can listen to this interview on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. And you can also go to inthelimelightmedia.com to read our digital magazine. Thanks for watching this episode of In the Limelight TV, intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel on YouTube, and you can listen to the podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and Inspired News Radio. Go ahead over to inthelimelightmedia.com to read our digital magazine, and don't forget to connect with me on social pretty much anywhere. Stay well until we meet again in the Limelight.